The first day of Ms. Amina Carter's new job began with a quiet determination. She walked through the doors of Ridgeview High with the calm posture of someone who had learned long ago how to navigate every type of environment, from war zones buzzing with pressure to classrooms humming with teenage noise. Her dark skin, braided hair, and sharp, observant eyes made her stand out immediately, but she carried herself with a measured confidence that needed no introduction. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here to teach. Most students greeted her with curious looks, some welcoming, some indifferent, but one gaze was different. Tyler Briggs. 17. Tall, broad-shouldered, and infamous for all the wrong reasons. His father owned half the town. His group of friends treated the school like their personal territory. And Tyler, sharpened by privilege and unchecked arrogance, had a habit of pushing boundaries simply to see who would break first. From the moment he really saw her, something ugly stirred behind his smirk. A challenge. A target. A belief that he could get away with anything he wanted. Amina felt the stare but didn't acknowledge it. She had faced far worse than one teenage boy inflated by entitlement. She greeted her class with a steady voice. Welcome to your first day of applied science. You'll find that my classroom has 3 rules: respect, discipline, and accountability. Everything else, we can build together. Most of the students straightened up. Some nodded. But Tyler leaned back in his chair, tapping it against the wall, giving her a grin that said he had no intention of following any of those rules. When class ended, whispers flew around the hallway. The new teacher wasn't just confident, she was calm. Almost too calm. And for someone like Tyler, calmness looked like a challenge begging to be broken. By third period, Amina walked into the laboratory, arranging equipment for a controlled experiment demonstration. Students filtered in, some eager, some half asleep, but Tyler's entrance was different. Loud. Intentional. A push of the door that announced his presence like a forced spotlight. The other students exchanged glances. Everyone knew Tyler didn't like authority. And he liked being corrected even less. Amina stood at the front, explaining safety procedures, her voice steady. Before you touch any equipment, you must. Tyler interrupted loudly. Relax. It's just a lab, right? Not the army. A few students snickered. Amina's expression didn't shift. Mr. Briggs, you'll follow the same safety expectations as everyone else. The tone wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry. It was firm. Controlled. And it surprised him. Most teachers either avoided him or tried too hard to please him. But she didn't react to him at all. She treated him like any other student, and for someone used to dominance, that felt like disrespect. He took a step closer to her table. What, you gonna boss me around because you think you're tough? Still calm, she simply moved a piece of equipment out of his reach. Back to your station. Tyler wasn't used to boundaries, especially from someone he'd already decided he didn't have to respect. His face tightened. His voice dropped. You don't belong here. The room chilled. Students looked away. They knew what he meant. Amina understood it too. She had heard those words before, on bases overseas, in small towns, from strangers who assumed their confidence came from skin, not skill. But she refused to let his attempt at intimidation disrupt her purpose. You're here to learn, she said evenly. Stand at your station. That calmness, that refusal to be rattled, ignited something reckless in Tyler. The experiment began. Students carefully handled beakers and burners, whispering instructions to each other. But Tyler wasn't following his assignment. He watched her instead. That steady posture, shoulders relaxed, eyes always aware, she carried herself like someone trained to read a room in seconds, and that irritated him. Halfway through the demonstration, he moved again. Slowly, deliberately. You think you can talk to me like that in front of everybody? Amina didn't look up from the burner she was adjusting. Focus on your task. He stepped closer. Or what? The class froze. Amina finally turned to him. Tyler, you're creating an unsafe environment. Step back. Her tone wasn't a threat, but it carried an authority that cut straight through the room. Tyler wasn't used to feeling smaller than the person he confronted. Anger flickered through him before reason could catch up. He moved closer, too close. His hand shot forward, not in a controlled strike but in a reckless, impulsive attempt to intimidate her by grabbing at her collar area, his fingers brushing her neck. Students gasped, some stepping backward instinctively. It wasn't a calculated attack, it was disrespect exploding into aggression. Tyler expected her to flinch, panic, retreat. She didn't. In a single controlled motion, fast, efficient, and entirely non-harmful, Amina removed his hand from her space with a precise grip, pivoting her body just enough to break his leverage without force. No violence. No theatrics. Just technique. Tyler stumbled back a step, shocked by how effortlessly she redirected him. Amina's eyes were steady, unshaken. Do not put your hands on me. Ever. Her voice carried something different now, not anger. Not fear. Training. Discipline. A tone of someone who had been in real situations where control mattered more than strength. Tyler's bravado flickered. What was that? She didn't answer immediately. She simply straightened her sleeve, maintaining her posture. A boundary. Respect it. The class whispered in disbelief. No teacher had ever stood up to Tyler like that. And no one had ever disarmed him without raising their voice or losing their composure. Tyler's friends looked at him, waiting to see if he'd escalate. But for the first time, uncertainty cracked through his confidence. He swallowed hard, trying to save face. You think you're some kind of soldier or something? Amina's eyes held his for a long, silent moment, a look of someone who had seen sandstorms in foreign countries, pressure that could break a person, and comrades who depended on her steady decision-making. I don't think, she said quietly. I know. The words weren't boastful. The next morning, Ravensdale High felt like a shaken hive, whispers crawling through every hallway, rumors skittering across lockers, students replaying the scene from the lab like a viral clip stuck in their minds. Everyone had seen Kevin, the school's self-appointed tyrant, storm out of the building yesterday with his pride crushed and his arrogance bleeding into the floor, even though Ms. Amara hadn't laid a single harmful hand on him. She hadn't needed to. Her posture alone, sharp, composed, military-etched, had frozen the entire room in a respectful silence that no teacher had ever commanded from them before. But today, something far bigger was brewing. When Ms. Amara walked through the gates, she could feel the shift in the air, the kind that soldiers feel before a battle, the kind that mothers feel before a storm. She knew the bully wouldn't stay silent for long. Power-hungry people never do. And she also knew that every racist insult he had thrown at her wasn't truly about her skin, it was about everything he couldn't understand. But today was going to be different. Today wasn't about surviving a bully. Today was about transforming an entire school. As Amara stepped into her classroom, she saw faces filled with something she had never seen at Ravensdale, anticipation mixed with respect. Even the loudest kids sat a little straighter. Everyone kept waiting for Kevin to burst in and try something again, but deep inside, none of them were sure he would. They had never seen him back down from anything until yesterday. But Kevin arrived. And he arrived loud. The door slammed open so hard it rattled the windows, and he walked in with his gang behind him, 3 boys who fed off his cruelty because they didn't know how to stand on their own. But today, Kevin didn't storm forward. He hesitated. His eyes didn't hold the same fire, they held confusion, like he'd spent the night arguing with his own reflection. You think you scared me yesterday? He barked, voice cracking just enough for everyone to catch it. You think just cause you were in the military, you can walk around like you're better than. His words were sharp but hollow, like a blade made of plastic. Ms. Amara didn't move. Kevin, she said softly, her voice steady, anchoring the entire class, do you really want to repeat what happened yesterday? A ripple of gasps trembled through the room. Kevin's jaw tightened, but instead of stepping closer, he took a step back. His friends looked at him in disbelief. Kevin swallowed, visibly replaying the moment when she had effortlessly broken free from his grip, pivoted behind him, and immobilized him without even hurting him. She had fought like someone who didn't want dominance, she wanted control, resolution, peace. It was unfamiliar to him. No one had ever fought him without fear. And no one had ever won. Kevin suddenly slammed his fist against a desk, not in aggression, but in frustration. You don't get it, he yelled. I'm supposed to be the one people listen to. This is my school. Not yours. The class fell silent. For the first time, they weren't afraid of his anger, they pitied it. Amara stepped forward, not with intimidation, but with calm authority that only real leaders carry, the kind that doesn't shout, it resonates. Kevin, she said, you've mistaken fear for respect your entire life. And yesterday was the first time you saw the difference. The words hit him harder than any strike ever could. His shoulders sagged. His breath shook. Racism, cruelty, dominance, none of those were natural instincts. They were shields. And shields always hide wounds. But Kevin wasn't ready to admit that, not yet. Instead, he lashed out again, pointing a trembling finger at her. You think you're better than everyone because you were a soldier? Because you look different? You don't belong here. Ms. Amara looked around the room. Every student held their breath. I belong anywhere I choose to serve, she replied. And I'm here to serve this class, even you. Kevin flinched as if she had struck him. He wasn't used to compassion. It confused him, disarmed him, stripped him of the excuses he lived behind. Finally, he spat back, whatever. This isn't over. He turned and walked out. But no one followed him this time. Not a single person. His gang looked at him, then at Ms. Amara, then quietly slid into their seats. The class exhaled. Amara simply nodded and began teaching, calm, confident, unshaken. But later that day, something unimaginable happened. During lunch, Kevin was cornered by a group of seniors, older bullies who had always tolerated him only because he amused them. Now that he'd been publicly embarrassed, they smelled blood. And instead of supporting him, they mocked him, shoved him, pushed him against the metal lockers. So the big bad wolf got humbled by a black teacher, huh? One sneered. Did she scare you with her army tricks? Another taunted. Kevin didn't fight. For the first time, he was utterly still, like someone realizing that the throne he'd built was made of sand. The seniors got bolder, and in a world full of noise, she fought her battles in silence. In a place ruled by fear, she became the courage they didn't know they needed, and in the heart of a broken school, one black teacher with a soldier's past rewrote the meaning of strength. This wasn't the end of the fight, it was only the beginning. Subscribe for the next chapter, because heroes like her deserve to be seen.